Greetings! Thank you for joining me. This is our last class in this series. We've been going through this for 5 years. It's the second time through the Torah. And I'm going to take a break from teaching Torah for a bit and try to get some other things done. As a wrap-up, we finished really 34 of Deuteronomy last week, the last chapter of Deuteronomy. The week before, we talked about the Song of Moses. The Song of Moses is all about the song that he gave to Israel's seed about the harlotry that we're going to be involved in the last days. That said, I want us to understand Torah. If we look at the big picture of Torah, it's about the fall of the man and the recovery of the man to his rightful place in Yehovah's kingdom. We were made in the image of Yehovah, in his likeness, but we fell. Adam had Seth in his own image and in his own likeness. And from there on in, we have been all born the sons of Belial. Wicked sons, not men created in Yehovah's image. The good news is that we can become into Yehovah's image once again. How do we do it? We left the kingdom of our birth. This is what Abraham did. He left the kingdom of his birth. He dwelled in the land of promise as in a strange kingdom, under Yehovah's jurisdictional authority. He wasn't serving the kingdoms, the Elohim of men, the lawmakers and judges. He was serving the Elohim, the lawmaker and judge, the creator of the whole universe. This is the good news. We can once again leave the kingdom of our birth, join ourselves to Yehovah and his other called out people, and at Passover become his Kasid, Israel's seed. They get translated as the children of Israel. No. They are not the children of Israel. We're talking about men, but we're talking about spiritually born men. Not talking about servants, not talking about Ger. The Ger can become Israel's seed eventually. But what I want us to see is that Yehovah is faithful in all the words that come out of his mouth. He is going to bring them to pass. He promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that he would raise up seed. But he's not talking about flesh. He's talking about spiritually born men, those men that come into covenant with him by slaughter. When does that happen? It happens at Passover. Passover is the time that the Ger become the Ezra men, the native-born men. And those are the men who are going to inherit the land. It's about the land and the seed, the land and the seed. Yehovah is even now, once again, as he promised, raising up seed to inherit the land. I want to start today by showing you Jeremiah 16. It really goes along with the Song of Moses and the harlotry to which we're all inclined. You know, this is the reason we wear these tzitzit on our clothes, so that we remember to keep the words of Yehovah and to do them, and that we do not follow the harlotry to which our own eyes and our own hearts are inclined. That said, here is Jeremiah 16. He says, "Then you shall say to them, because your fathers have forsaken me, says Yehovah. They walked after other Elohim, lawmakers and judges, and served them, and worshiped them, and have forsaken me, and not kept my law." You know, what are the lawmakers and judges that we're following? Yeshua? The president? The governors, the legislators, those are the Elohim. He says, and you have done worse than your fathers. For behold, each one of you follows the dictates of his own evil heart, so that no one listens to me. Therefore I will cast you out of this land into a land that you do not know. This is where we are today. Neither you nor your fathers. Remember, he's not talking to ladies. He's talking to you and your fathers. And there you shall serve other Elohim day and night, where I will not show you favor. Will not show you favor. How many people think they have the favor of Yehovah? They don't. But look what he says. Therefore, behold, the days are coming, says Yehovah, that it shall no more be said, Yehovah lives, who brought up Israel's seed out of the land of Egypt. But Yehovah lives, who brought up Israel's seed from the land of the north, and from all the lands which he has driven them. For I will bring them back to their land which I gave to their fathers. This is where we are right now. He is raising up spiritual seed in the land. We're going to teach our sons to do the same thing. That said, let's begin the material that I'd like to cover today. I'm going to start here in Joshua. Joshua chapter 1. And I'm going to move quickly because there's a lot of information that I would like to cover. I'm going to skip some things in order to cover all the material that I want to get covered. Moses has died. Here, the first verse. After the death of Moses, Yehovah's servant, it came to pass that Yehovah spoke to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' assistant. Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over the Jordan, thou and this people, to the land which I am giving them. Who? Israel's seed. The ladies don't get land. The Ger don't get land. The servants don't get land. The spiritually born men, the leaders of their household, will receive the land. When we numbered Israel after we left Egypt, they didn't count the ladies. They counted all the men, 20 years and older, who were able to go to war. He says, every place that the sole of your foot, this is plural, second person plural, the sole of your foot will tread, I have given you, as I said to Moses. It's funny because he was talking to Joshua, but then he says this is second person plural. He tells Joshua, be of good courage, verse 6. For to this people thou shalt divide as an inheritance the land which I swore to their fathers to give to them. Only be of good courage. You know what? We're crossing over the Jordan into enemy territory. This is a scary place. He told the same thing to us. Look at here. This is 31. We covered it last week. Moses, before he died, told Israel's seed, be strong and of good courage. Do not fear nor be afraid of them, for Yehovah thy Elohim, he's the one who goes with thee. He will not leave thee nor forsake thee. Then Moses called Joshua and said to him, same thing in the sight of Israel, be strong and of good courage. Be strong and of good courage. You know what? This is what it's going to take in the latter days. To know Yehovah and trust in his ability to bring his word to pass. What has been will be done again. I'm looking forward to seeing this. But remember, these are men who haven't even been circumcised yet. We're going to see it in a second. They've been in the wilderness for 40 years. Let's continue. Let's go to the next chapter. Just going to skip that one. Let's start here. Then Joshua rose early in the morning And they set out from Acacia Grove and came to the Jordan, he and all Israel's seed, and lodged there before they crossed over. They're going to lodge here for, it looks like, 3 days. Let me go to my map for just a second. Here it is. We're down here. We're going to come up to the Jordan. We're going to stay here for about 3 days. The priests are going to go into the water. We're going to see the water in flood stage is going to stop coming down the river. It's going to stop way up here by Adam. Almost 5 miles away. Really, probably closer to 10 or 15 miles away. Here's our scale, 0 to 15 right here. So if we're crossing here, we've got about 15 miles. Can you imagine what that looks like? You're on the walls of Jericho. They have a view of the river. This is a place where any invading army has got to get through Jericho. This is the defense. And this is the place where the armies would cross. But not in the spring. Not at flood stage in the rivers. They're safe, they think. You know, this shows this little river. I'll bet you this river was much, much wider during flood stage. But can you imagine what it's going to look like when all of a sudden this river is dry? They can't see all the way up to Adam. They're going to see no water in the river at all. What an amazing sight. Well, let's continue. So it was after 3 days that the officers went through the camp. And they commanded the people. Who are the people that we're talking about? I don't think these are ladies. Saying, when you see the Ark of the Covenant of Yehovah, your Elohim, and the priests, the Levites, a little confusing. It sounds like the Levites are going to be moving the priests. But remember, the priests are Levites. Bearing it. The Levites don't carry the Ark of the Covenant. The priests carry the Ark of the Covenant. Then you shall set out from your place and go after it. Yet there shall be a space between you and it. Look at this. About 2,000 cubits by measure. 2,000 cubits. We're talking about 3,000 feet. Remember, a cubit's about 18 inches. So we can add a half again to that. 3,000 feet is about 2/3 of a mile. That's a long ways. I'm guessing that they went upriver and, well, here, this is what I'm guessing. I'm guessing that they went higher to this area and we crossed over half a mile from them because we can't get any closer than 3,000 feet. What is that? 10,000 yards. That's a long ways. And we crossed over. He says, do not come near it, that you may know the way by which you must go, for you have not passed this way before. And Joshua said to the people, sanctify yourselves. Who's he talking to? He's talking to the men. Sanctify yourselves. Remember, when we go to war, there's not ladies in our camp. I'm guessing that the ladies had to stay on the other side of the river. Can't find the proof of it in Torah. But I don't think the ladies are with us. Yehovah's not going to dwell in our camp. He's telling us to sanctify ourselves. We're going to war. Remember, we saw if a man even has a wet dream, he can't be in the camp. Because Yehovah won't be in a camp where it's unclean. So a woman in her menses, what would that do to our camp? No, there's no ladies here. And Joshua said to the people, sanctify yourselves, for tomorrow Yehovah will do wonders among you. What wonders are we going to see? We're going to see the waters part. Then Joshua spoke to the priests, saying, take up the Ark of the Covenant and cross over before the people. So they took the Ark of the Covenant and went before the people. I want to pick up down here. So it was, when the people set out from the camp to cross over the Jordan, with the priests bearing the Ark of the Covenant before the people. And as those who bore the Ark, notice it's the priests who are carrying the Ark of the Covenant. I wanted to point that out. We're talking about the priests, the Levites. The Levites are priests. Remember, all priests are Levites, but not all Levites are priests. But these are the priests that are going to be carrying the Ark, who bore the Ark. Let me finish here. So it was when the people set out from their camp to cross over the Jordan, with the priests bearing the Ark of the Covenant before the people. And as those who bore the ark came to the Jordan, and the feet of the priests who bore the ark dipped into the edge of the water, for the Jordan overflows all its banks during the whole time of the harvest. Yes, this is a flood season. It's spring. The mountains are getting rid of their snow, and the streams are high. The Jordan River is high. That the waters which came down from upstream stood still and rose in heaps very far away at Adam, the city that is beside Zaratan. Let's go to our map. I want you to see it. There's Adam, right here, the city that's beside Zaratan. I'm guessing Adam is going to flood. How many people are going to drown when the waters all of a sudden rise, I wonder? It's got to be a significant amount of waters. So the waters that went down into the Sea of Arabah, the salt sea, failed and were cut off, and the people crossed over opposite Jericho. Then the priests who bore the Ark of the Covenant of Yehovah stood firm on dry ground in the midst of the Jordan, and all the people crossed over on dry land until the people had crossed completely over the Jordan. Next chapter. At the beginning of this chapter, Yehovah commands Israel's seed to take one man from every tribe, and while they're crossing the river, to take a large rock from it. They're going to build a memorial place so that Israel's seed will remember what has happened in this place. I'm going to pick up here in 15. Then Yehovah spoke to Joshua, saying, "Command the priests who bear the ark of the testimony to come up from the Jordan." Joshua therefore commanded the priests, saying, "Come up from the Jordan." And it came to pass, when the priests who bore the ark of the covenant of Yehovah had come from the midst of the Jordan, the soles of the priests' feet touched the dry land, that the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and overflowed all its banks as before. You know what? This reminds me, and actually another place does too, but this reminds me of the general who brings his troops to another land by boat and then burns his boats so that his men realize there's no going back. We either win or we die. I see two things that this is going to happen in. One, the waters are returning. Would they go back? If we were to put the ark back into the water, would the water stop again? I'm guessing not. The other thing that we're going to see is when we keep the Passover, the manna is going to stop coming. If the manna stops, where are we going to get our food? It's got to come from the land that we're going to take for ourselves. Again, there's no going back. We're committed. Be strong and of good courage. You're going to need it. But Yehovah is going to fight for us. Now the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month. What do we do on the 10th day of the first month? This is the day that we're going to select our lamb and our goat for the Passover. It says, "And they camped at Gilgal on the east side of the border of Jericho. Here we are here. This is the, here we go. Here's Gilgal. We're just east of Jericho. Probably way out of arrow range or any kind of projected stone that they could throw at us out of that range. We're right in front of them. You know, it's got to be terrifying. This is not the kind of thing that happens every day. They have the water stop and an army cross over and camp in front of your gates. There's trouble in the land. They already know what happened with Og and Sihon, the Amorites, and how we took all that land. They couldn't defeat those two generals, those two Amalekites, but we did it. And those 12 stones which they took out of the Jordan, Joshua set up in Gilgal. So that's where the stones are going to be made. That's where the memorial is going to be created. And he spoke to Israel's seed saying, when your, look what it says, they translate it as children. It's not children. This is clearly your sons. Your banim is the word that we have here. Your banim. When your sons ask their fathers in time to come, saying, what are these stones? Then you shall let your sons know, saying, Israel crossed over the Jordan on dry land. For Yehovah your Elohim dried up the waters of the Jordan before you until you had crossed over, as Yehovah your Elohim did to the Red Sea. Oh, I know. Isn't that neat? That they would even compare that to the Red Sea. It is. It's just like the Red Sea, which he dried up before us until we crossed over, that all the people of the earth may know the hand of Yehovah, that it is mighty, that you may fear Yehovah your Elohim forever. This is what it's all about, understanding who Yehovah is. He is our Elohim, our lawmaker and judge forever. We don't serve in the kingdoms of men. Chapter 5. So it was, when all the kings of the Amorites, who were on the west side of the Jordan, and all the kings of the Canaanites, who were by the sea, heard that Yehovah had dried up the waters of the Jordan from before Israel's seed until they crossed over, that their hearts melted. And there was no spirit in them any longer because of Israel's seed. Do you hear what's going on here? At that time, Yehovah said to Joshua, make flint knives for yourselves and circumcise Israel's seed again a second time. We did it once when we were in Egypt. Actually, we did it once also when we, after we had left Egypt. In the second year when we kept Passover. Apparently, we didn't keep Passover for 40 years. 38 years? What's up with that? How could that happen? If I'd have been there, I would have kept Passover. Why didn't they? At that time, Yehovah said to Joshua, make flint knives for yourselves to circumcise Israel's seed again a second time. So Joshua made flint knives for himself and circumcised Israel's seed at the hill of foreskins. And this is the reason why Joshua circumcised them. Well, here it is. All the people who came out of Egypt, who were males, all men and more, had died in the wilderness on the way after they had come out of Egypt. Remember, those were the men who were circumcised, but they failed to follow Yehovah. They let their fear get in the way. That's why he's saying, be strong and very courageous. For all the people who came out had been circumcised, but all the people born in the wilderness on the way as they came out of Egypt had not been circumcised. Why? For Israel's seed walked 40 years in the wilderness to all the people the men of war who came out of Egypt were consumed because they did not obey the voice of Yehovah, to whom Yehovah swore that he would not show them the land which Yehovah had sworn to their fathers. Remember, they all said, our sons will die. Well, their sons lived and they died. Sworn to their fathers that he would give us a land flowing with milk and honey. Then Joshua circumcised their sons, whom he raised up in their place, for they were uncircumcised because they had not been circumcised on the way. So it was, when they had finished circumcising the people, that they stayed in their place in the camp till they were healed. Remember, the people are all men at this point. Then Yehovah said to Joshua, this day I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you. This day I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you. This is the day that they were circumcised. I would almost have expected this to be the day that they kept the Passover. That doesn't seem to be the case, because it's the next verse that we're going to do that. Unless it's the same day. This is the day that I've rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you. The reproach of Egypt. How about the reproach of the United States? The reproach of Canada, the reproach of France, the reproach of England. The other Elohim that we have served. Now Israel's seed camped at Gilgal. Oh, let me finish the verse. This is the day I rolled away the reproach of Egypt for you. Therefore, the name of the place is called Gilgal to this day. Gilgal, what does that mean? I think I put a note in here for that. Rolled away. Gilgal, rolled away. Now Israel's seed camped in Gilgal and kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month at twilight in the plains of Jericho. We're keeping the Passover just the way we're supposed to keep the Passover. These men are becoming Israel's seed, his seed. Remember, they're Elohim kind. We were talking about we fell away. We were born in Adam's likeness and in his likeness and in his image. Now we're going to be born a second time into Elohim kind. That's what Chesed means. Yehovah kind. Here, let me do this. I want to go to, just to reinforce this. This is Psalms 50. We'll come back here. We're on 5:9. Psalms 50. Verse 5. Here it is. He says, gather to me my saints. Here's Yehovah coming. He says he's going to gather them from the north and all the places where he scattered them. This is the last days. Gather to me my saints. My kind is really what it says. They translate it as my saints, but it's my kind. Those who cut covenant with me by slaughter. This is the slaughter that we're talking about. Passover. Remember, slaughter is about what we eat. Covenant with me by slaughter. Let me go back. Passover. And they ate the produce of the land on the day after the Passover. Unleavened bread and parched grain on the same day. We're going to eat now the produce of the land. Look what the next verse says. Then the manna ceased on the day after they had eaten the produce of the land. And Israel's seed no longer had manna, but they ate the food of the land of Canaan that year. See what I'm saying? It's like we're burning our bridges. We're burning our boats. We are been depending on Yehovah for this food that we have eaten for 40 years. Now we're going to take it from our land. But first, we've got to take our land. Well, I'm going to stop here in this chapter, and we're going to go to the next chapter. just one thing that I wanted us to see here. Now Jericho was securely shut up because of Israel's seed. None went out, and none came in. And Yehovah said to Joshua, "See, I have given Jericho into your hands, its king and its mighty men of valor." I think this is interesting. He says, see, ra'ah is the word that they're using there. See, ra'ah, I have given Jericho. It hasn't happened yet, but it's almost like he wants them to see it in his mind. See that I am faithful. See that what I said I would do, I will do. So now he's going to give us instructions. You shall march around the city, all men of war. It says all your men of war, all men of war. You shall go around the city once. This you shall do 6 days. And the priest shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns, shofars, before the ark. But the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priest shall blow the trumpets. It shall come to pass, when they make a long blast on the ram's horn, and when you hear the sound of the here it is, sound of the trumpet, that the people shall shout a great shout. Here, the people shall shout ra'ah, a great taruah. Shout a great taruah. Then the walls of the city shall fall down. The people shall go up, every man straight before him. The people are men. Then Joshua the son of Nun called the priests and said to them, "Take up the ark of the covenants, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of the ram's horn before the ark of the covenants." Well, I think I'm going to cover the rest of this in Yasher, because I want to turn to Yasher. I want to finish this series with Yasher. We haven't been in Yasher in many, many weeks, not since we started Deuteronomy. There's really no part of Deuteronomy is in Yasher. Find that interesting. Let's go to Yasher. This is it here. And it was after the death of Moses that Yehovah said to Joshua, Nun's son, saying, "Rise up and pass the Jordan to the land which I have given to Israel's seed. And thou shalt make Israel's seed inherit the land." Remember, it's about the land and the seed. The land and the seed. This is what we've been waiting for. This is the promise that Abraham received from Yehovah, and Isaac and Jacob, Israel. "Every place upon which the sole of your feet tread shall belong to you. But the wilderness of from the wilderness of Lebanon unto the great river of Parath shall be your boundary." Now, I don't know where the river Parath is at. Couldn't find it. "No man shall stand up against thee all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. Only be strong and of good courage to observe all the law which Moses commanded thee." He's talking to Joshua now. "Turn not from the way either to the right or to the left, in order that thou may prosper in all that thou doest." And Joshua commanded the officers of Israel, saying, "Pass through the camp, and command the people, saying, Prepare for yourselves provisions. For in 3 days more you will pass the Jordan to possess the land." And the officers of Israel's seed did so. And they commanded the people, and they did all that Joshua had commanded. And Joshua sent 2 men to spy out the land of Jericho. And the men went and spied out Jericho. At the end of 7 days, they came to Joshua in the camp and said that Yehovah has delivered the whole land into our hand. Now, here are some good spies. These are men of faith. And the inhabitants, therefore, are melted with fear because of us. And it came to pass after that, that Joshua rose up in the morning, and all Israel with him. And they journeyed from Shittim, and Joshua and all the people with him passed the Jordan. And Joshua was 82 years old when he passed the Jordan with Israel. I think Joshua dies at 111, as I recall. And the people went up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month. And they camped at Gilgal at the eastern corner of Jericho. And Israel's seed kept the Passover in Gilgal, in the plains of Jericho on the 14th day of the month, as it is written in the law of Moses, in Moses' law, in Joshua. And the manna ceased at that time on the morrow of the Passover. And there was no more manna for Israel's seed, and they ate the produce of the land of Canaan. And Jericho was entirely closed against Israel's seed. No one came out or went in. And it was in the second month, on the first day of the month. Look at this. I had always had in my mind that our taking of Jericho was done during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. I don't know where I got that idea. It doesn't really say it in Torah, but it makes it very clear here in Yasher, and it was in the second month, on the first day of the month, that Yehovah said to Joshua, "Rise up. Behold, I have given Jericho into thy hand, with all the people thereof. And all your fighting men shall go around the city once every day. Thus you shall do for 6 days." Who went around the city? All our fighting men. "And the priests shall blow upon the trumpets. And when you shall hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall give a great shout." There's the Torah. "That the walls of the city shall fall down. All the people shall go up, every man against his opponent." And Joshua did so, according to all Yehovah commanded him. And on the 7th day, they went round the city 7 times, and the priests blew the trumpets. And at the 7th round, Joshua said to the people, "Shout, for Yehovah has delivered the whole city into our hands. Only the city and all it contains shall be accursed to Yehovah. And keep yourselves from the accursed things, lest you make the camp of Israel cursed and trouble it. But all the silver and the gold and the brass and the iron shall be consecrated to Yehovah. They shall come into the treasury of Yehovah." And the people blew upon the trumpets and made a great shout, a teruah, and the walls of Jericho fell down. And all the people went up, every man straight before him, and they took the city and utterly destroyed all that was in it, both man and woman, young, old, ox, sheep, ass, with the edge of the sword. And they burned the whole city with fire. Only the vessels of silver and gold and brass and iron they put into the treasury of Yehovah. And Joshua swore at that time, saying, "Cursed be the man who builds Jericho. He shall lay the foundation thereof in his firstborn, and with his youngest son shall set up the gates thereof." Well, you know what? Here it is. This is Joshua who said this, but remember, Joshua is speaking for Yehovah. He says Shalach. What he says, Yehovah says. And this is exactly what happened. Let me just show you this. Here's what we just read in Joshua. And here's Kings, 1 Kings 16:34. In his days, Hiel of Bethel built Jericho. He laid its foundation with Avarim, his firstborn, and with his youngest son, Segav, he set up its gates, according to the words of Yehovah, which he had spoken through Joshua, the son of Nun. Look at that. He had spoken through Joshua, the son of Nun. Joshua said it, but Yehovah honored it. This is the Shalach in action. I really like this. We're going to see this in the last days. Now he says this, "And Achan, ben Carmi, ben Zavdi, ben Zerah, ben Judah, dealt treacherously in the accursed thing. And he took of the accursed thing and hid it in his tent. And the anger of Yehovah was kindled against Israel. And it was after this, when Israel's seed had returned from burning Jericho, Joshua sent men to spy out Ai and to fight against it, the size of a small city. And the men went up and spied out Ai, and they returned and said, Let not all the people go up with thee to Ai. Only let about 3,000 men go up and smite the city, for the men thereof are few. And Joshua did so, and there went up with him of Israel's seed about 3,000 men, and they fought against the men of Ai, Ai's men. And the battle was severe against Israel. And the men of Ai smote 36 men of Israel. And Israel's seed fled from before Ai's men. You know, this is not what's supposed to happen. We don't lose men. But there's sin in our camp. Something's going on. 36 men. 36 families. Do you think there's going to be people who are angry to see their sons, their fathers, their brothers, their husbands die? And when Joshua saw this thing, he tore his garments and fell upon his face to the ground before Yehovah. He and the elders of Israel, and they put dust on their heads. Why? Listen to why. And Joshua said, Why, O Yehovah, didst thou bring this people over the Jordan? What shall I say after the Israelites have turned their backs against their enemies? Oh, we turned our backs against our enemies. Shame on us. Now we're going to turn our backs on everybody. Now therefore, all the Canaanites, the inhabitants of the land, will hear this thing and surround us and cut off our name. And Yehovah said to Joshua, Why dost thou fall on thy face? Rise, get up, get thee up. Get thee up, he says off. Get thee up, for the Israelites have sinned and taken the accursed thing. I will no more be with them unless they destroy the accursed thing from among them. And Joshua rose up and assembled the people and brought the Urim by the order of Yehovah. Remember, the Tumim and the Urim are all about being able to question Yehovah and sort some of these things out. And the tribe of Judah was taken. And Achan, the son of Carmi, was taken. Isn't that cool that we were able to use these tools to find out who the men were? And Joshua said to Achan, Tell me, my son, what hast thou done? And Achan said, I saw amongst the spoil a goodly garment of Shinar, 200 shekels of silver, and a wedge of gold of 50 shekels weight. I coveted them and took them, and behold, they are hidden in the earth in the midst of the tent. And Joshua sent men who went and took them from the tent of Achan and brought them to Joshua. And Joshua took Achan, it says, and the utensils. The utensils. I thought, what is the utensils? The only thing I can think is the utensils must be the accursed things. The silver, the gold, and the garment of Shinar. And his sons and his daughters, and all belonging to him. I'm sure he took his wife too. Remember, the wives are never mentioned. They're bone of your bone, flesh of your flesh. They're you. I'm guessing he had to send for them from the other side of the river. How did they get them there? And they brought them into the valley of Achor. And Joshua burned them with fire. Here, these men are being burned with fire. These people are being burned with fire. And all the Israelites stoned Achan with stones. Do you think that there was anger amongst the families, especially the families who lost sons and fathers? Burned him with fire. And all the Israelites stoned Achan with stones, and they raised over him a heap of stones. Therefore did he call this place the Valley of Achor. So Yehovah's anger was appeased, and Joshua afterwards came to the city and fought against it. And Yehovah said to Joshua, Fear not, neither be dismayed. Behold, I have given into thy hand Ai, her king and her people, and thou shalt do unto them as thou didst to Jericho and her king. Only the spoil thereof and the cattle thereof, spoil and cattle. Spoil is going to be the gold, the silver, all the things of value. The cattle, I'm sure this was behemoth, so it would be the ox, the sheep, the goat, the donkeys, all the four-footed animals. Therefore shall you take for a prey for yourselves. Lay an ambush for the city behind it. So Joshua did according to the word of Yehovah, and he chose amongst the sons of war 30,000 valiant men. And he sent them, and they lay in ambush for the city. And he commanded them, saying, When you see us, we will flee before them with cunning, and they will pursue us. Remember, this is what happened. We retreated, and they came after us. This time, they're going to come after us, but we're going to ambush them from behind. And Joshua fought, and the men of the city went out towards Israel, the men of the city, not knowing that they were laying in ambush for them behind the city. Here, I've got a really cool here. We were in Gilgal, well, Jericho, I guess. We came to Ai, and they drove us back. Now we're coming the next time, and we're going to feign fear and come back. But as we do, the men who are coming from this direction are going to take the city and burn the city. They're going to realize, oh my gosh, we're cut off. Our families are back there burning, and these men now are surrounding us. We'll come back to this. And Joshua fought, and the men of the city went out towards Israel, not knowing that they were lying in ambush for them behind the city. And Joshua and all the Israelites feigned themselves wearied out before them, and they fled by the way of the wilderness with cunning. And the men of Ai's men gathered all the people who were in the city to pursue the Israelites. And they went out and were drawn away from the city. Not one remained. And they left the city open and pursued the Israelites. And those who were lying in ambush rose up out of their places and hastened to come to the city and took it and set it on fire. And the men of Ai turned back, and behold, the smoke of the city ascended to the skies, and they had no means of retreating either one way or the other. And Ai's men were in Israel's midst, some on one side and some on the other side. And they smote them so that not one of them remained. And Israel's seed took Malash, king of Ai, alive. And they brought him to Joshua, and Joshua hanged him on a tree, and he died. And Israel's seed returned to the city after having burned it, and they smote all that were in it with the edge of the sword. And the number of those that had fallen of the men of Ai, both man and woman, was 12,000. It was a pretty small city. Only the cattle, only the livestock, and the spoil of the city they took for themselves, according to the words of Yehovah to Joshua. And all the kings on this side of the Jordan, all the kings of Canaan, heard the evil which Israel's seed had done to Jericho and to Ai, and they gathered themselves together to fight against Israel. Only the inhabitants of Gibeon were greatly afraid of fighting against the Israelites, lest they should perish. So they acted cunningly, and they came to Joshua and to all Israel and said to them, "We've come from a distant land. Now therefore make a covenant with us." And the inhabitants of Gibeon overreached Israel's seed. Overreached. I don't even know what overreached means. Tricked them. And Israel's seed made a covenant with them. And they made peace with them, and the princes of the congregation swore unto them. But after Afterward, Israel's seed knew that they were neighbors to them and were dwelling amongst them. Oh, no, they tricked us. But Israel's seed slew them not, for they had sworn to them. How did they swear? By Yehovah. And they became hewers of wood and drawers of water. They became our servants. We're still going to take their land. They're going to become our servants. But they're going to live. That's the upside for them. And Joshua said to them, why did you deceive me to do this thing to us? And they answered to him, saying, because it was told to thy servants all that thou had done to all the kings of the Amorites. And we were greatly afraid of our lives. And we did this thing. And Joshua appointed them on that day to hew wood and to draw water. And he divided them for slaves for servants to all Israel's seed. Always like those loaded words. And Adonai-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, heard all that Israel's seed had done to Jericho and to Ai. And he sent to Hakam, king of Hebron, to Param, king of Yarmouth, to Japhia, king of Lachish, and to Devir, king of Eglon, saying, come up to me and help me, that we may smite Israel's seed and the inhabitants of Gibeon, who made peace with Israel's seed. And they gathered themselves together. The 5 kings of the Amorites went up with all their camp, a mighty people, numerous as the sands of the seashore. And all the kings came and encamped before Gibeon. They're going to attack Gibeon first. Isn't that interesting? And they began to fight amongst the inhabitants of Gibeon. And all the men of Gibeon sent to Joshua, saying, come up quickly to us and help us, for all the kings of the Amorites have gathered together to fight against us. And Joshua and all the fighting people went up from Gilgal. And Joshua came suddenly to them and smote these 5 kings with a great slaughter. Here it is. These guys are coming from all these cities, Hebron, Lachish, are the 2 that I see right now, Debar, Beth-horon. They're coming to Gibeon to fight. We're going to come up to fight them there. It says the battle begins as Joshua attacks the Amorites on behalf of the Gibeonites. All right. And Yehovah confounded them before Israel's seed, who smote them with a terrible slaughter in Gibeon, and pursued them along the way that goes up to Beth-horon and Makkedah. And they fled from before Israel's seed. And whilst they were fleeing, Yehovah sent upon them hailstone from heaven, and more of them died by hailstones than by the slaughter of Israel's seed. And Israel's seed pursued them, and they still smote them in the road going on and smiting them. It says a great slaughter. Remember, this word slaughter, let's start using this word correctly. They're not being slaughtered, they're being killed. They're being smitten, you could say. And they did say it here, going on smiting them. They're going to say it again in a moment. But let's remember, slaughter, when we're talking about slaughter, we're talking about something that we're going to eat. And Yehovah and the Israel seed pursued them, and they did smote them in the road, going on in a great slaughter. Going on, smiting them. Jeez, I'm doing it myself. And when they were smiting, the day was declining toward the evening, and Joshua said in the sight of the people, sun, stand still upon Gibeon, and the moon in the valley of Ajalon, until the nation shall have revenged itself upon its enemies. Hear this. This is Joshua again. Did Yehovah tell Joshua to say this? Joshua is taking it upon himself right now. Sun, stand still, and the moon, until the nations have revenge upon its enemies. And Yehovah hearkened to the voice of Joshua, and the sun stood still in the midst of the heavens, and it stood still 60 and 30 moments in, where is it? Here it is. This is Joshua 10, almost a whole day. And it did not hasten to go down for almost a whole day. There it is right there. And there has been no day like that, before it or after it, that Yehovah heeded to the voice of a man, for Yehovah fought for Israel. Pretty cool. 6 and 30 moments. And the moon stood still and hastened not to go down for a whole day. And there was no day like it before or after it, that Yehovah hearkened to the voice of a man, for Yehovah fought for Israel. I love when I see Yasher almost verbatim in Torah. Then Joshua spoke this song on the day that Yehovah had given the Amorites into the hands of Joshua and Israel's seed. And he said in the sight of all Israel, Thou hast done mighty things, O Yehovah. Thou hast performed great deeds. Who is like thee? My lips shall sing to thy name. My goodness and my fortress, my high tower, I will sing a new song unto thee. With thanksgiving will I sing to thee. Thou art the strength of my salvation. And the kings of the earth shall praise thee. The princes of the world shall sing to thee. Israel's seed shall rejoice in thy salvation. They shall sing and praise thy power. To thee, Yehovah, did we confide. We said, Thou art our Elohim, for thou wast our shelter and strong tower against our enemies. This reminds me of the song of David in 2 Samuel 32. To thee we cried and were not ashamed. In thee we trusted and were delivered. When we cried unto thee, thou didst hear our voice. Thou didst deliver our souls from the sword. Thou didst show us thy grace. Thou didst give us thy salvation. Thou didst rejoice our hearts with thy strength. Thou didst go forth to our salvation. With thine arm thou didst redeem thy people. Thou didst answer us from the heavens of thy holiness. Thou didst save us from 10,000s of people. Yes, numerous as the sands of the seas. We had a lot of people. We had 600,000 men. But they had far more than we had. The sun and the moon stood still in the heavens, and thou didst stand in thy wrath against our oppressors, and didst command thy judgments over them. All the princes of the earth stood up. The kings of the nations have gathered themselves together. They were not moved at thy presence. They desired thy battles. Silly guys. Thou didst rise up against them in thy anger, and didst bring down thy wrath upon them. Thou didst destroy them in thine anger, and cut them off in thine heart. The nations have been consumed with thy fury. Kingdoms have declined because of thy wrath. This is going to happen again, you guys. Thou didst wound kings in the day of thy anger. Thou didst pour out thy fury upon them. Thy wrathful anger took hold of them. Thou didst turn their iniquity upon them, and didst cut them off in their wickedness. Remember, this is why we are taking this land, not because of our righteousness, but because of their wickedness. The wicked are not going to inherit the earth in the last days. The righteous are going to inherit the earth. They did spread a trap. They fell therein. In the net they hid. Their foot was caught. Thine hand was ready for all thy enemies, who said, through their sword they possessed the land, through their arm they dwelt in the city. Yeah, it's in our strength. We did it in our strength. Thou didst fill their faces with shame. Thou didst bear their horns down to the ground. Thou didst terrify them in thy wrath and destroy them in thy anger. You know, what's it going to be like in these last days with modern day weapons? Do you remember when in the 7-day war that Jacob's sons had, 10 of his sons fought against the 7 Amorite cities? And Yehovah would take their arrows, and when they shot an arrow at us, it would come back on them. Can you imagine what it would be like in the last days as we shoot some of our modern day weapons at us and it goes back on them? The traps that they are setting is going to fall on them. Oh, we're going to see the great arm of Yehovah in these last days, and it's going to be amazing. But we've got to be strong and very courageous. You know, Yehovah is raising up true Israel's seed this time. Men who have left the kingdom of their birth voluntarily. Not that he's driving out. There'll be lots of people like that with us. But the main men that he's going to use as his shalakim, like he's used Moses, like he used Joshua, are going to be men who have come to him like David. A heart for Yehovah. And with men like that, Yehovah is going to show himself very, very strong. The earth trembled and shook at the sound of thy storm over them. Thou didst not withhold their souls from death. No, he took them and didst bring down their lives to the grave. Thou didst pursue them in thy storm. Thou didst consume them in thy whirlwind. Thou didst turn their rain into hail. They fell in deep pits so that they could not rise. Their carcasses were like rubbish cast in the middle of the cities. And they were consumed and destroyed in thy anger. Thou didst save thy people with thy might. Therefore our people rejoice in thee. Our souls exult in thy salvation. Our tongue shall relate thy might. We will sing and praise thy wondrous works. For thou didst save us from our enemies. Thou didst deliver us from those who rose up against us. Thou didst destroy them from before us and depress them beneath our feet. Thus shall all thine enemies perish, O Yehovah, and the wicked shall be like chaff driven by the wind. And thy beloved shall be like trees planted by the water. That's us. Yehovah's segula, his kasid, his heirs, Elohim kind. Those are the ones who are going to be able to stand before their enemies in the last days. You must make yourself Yehovah's man. So Joshua and all Israel with him returned to the camp of Gilgal after having smitten all the kings, so that not a remnant was left of them. And the 5 kings fled alone on foot from the battle and hid themselves in a cave. And Joshua sought for them in the field of battle, but did not find them. And it was afterwards told Joshua, saying, the kings are found, and behold, they are hidden in a cave. And Joshua said, appoint men to be at the mouth of the cave to guard them, lest they take themselves away. And Israel's seed did so. And Joshua called all Israel and said to the officers of battle, place your feet upon the necks of these kings. And Joshua said, so shall Yehovah do to all your enemies. See what we did to these guys? We're going to continue to do it. And Joshua commanded afterwards that they should slay the kings and cast them into the cave and put a great stones at the mouth of the cave. And Joshua went afterwards with all the people that were with him on that day to Makkedah. And he smote it with the edge of the sword. And he utterly destroyed the souls and all belonging to the city. And he did to the king and the people thereof as he had done to Jericho. And he passed from there to Libnah. He smote it. He went to Lachish, and he did to it also. here. And Joshua took Lachish, and all the people thereof, and he did to it as he had done to Libnah. And Joshua passed from there to Eglon, and he took that also, and he smote it, and all the people thereof by the edge of the sword. And from there he passed to Hebron, and fought against it, and took it, and destroyed it, and returned from there with all Israel to Debir, and fought against it, and smote it with the edge of the sword. Let's take a look at this battle plan that he's doing here. Here, this is a great map for this. Went to Libnah, Mekkedah. Remember, there was the cave at Mekkedah, Debir, Hebron, Lachish. Here's one at Eglon here. These are all the places where he went. And now he's going to return. These, remember, our place where you put your foot is going to be yours. These are all becoming our cities. And he destroyed every soul in it. He left none remaining. He did to it and the king thereof as he had done in Jericho. And Joshua smote all the kings of the Amorites from Kadesh Barnea to Azah. And he took their country at once, for Yehovah had fought for Israel. And Judah with all Israel came back to Gilgal. And when at that time Jabin, king of Chazor, heard all that Joshua had done to the kings of the Amorites, to Jabin sent to Yabin sent to Yaphat, king of Midian, and to Laban, king of Shimron, and Yapha, king of Akshaph, and to all the kings and the Amorites, saying, Come quickly to us and help us, that we may smite Israel's seed before they come upon us, and do unto us as they have done to the other kings of the Amorites. And all the kings hearkened to the words of Abin, king of Chazar. And they went forth from all their camps, 17 kings. And their people were as numerous as the sands of the seashore. Here's 17 kings. Remember, the first one was 7 or 8 kings? Here's 17 kings, together with horses and chariots innumerable. And they came and pitched together at the waters of Marum. And they fought, and they were met together to fight against Israel. Here, let me go back to my map. Yeah, this is the next battle. Here's Marum. And this is where they met in Marum. All these kings were coming together. King of Dor, Shimron, Akshaph, Hazor, he's the instigator, Laish, and they're going to battle here at Marum. And they pitched together at the waters of Marum, and they were met together to fight against Israel. And Yehovah said to Joshua, Fear them not, for tomorrow about this time I will deliver them up all slain before thee. Thou shalt hew their horses and burn their chariots with fire. I had to look at what hew was. It was hamstringing, I think. It's probably the best way I could explain that. But Yehovah, do not be afraid of them, for tomorrow I will deliver them slain. You shall hamstring their horses. This is Joshua 11:6. You shall hamstring their horses and burn their chariots with fire. And Joshua, with all his men of war, came suddenly upon them and smote them, and they fell into the hands of Yehovah, who delivered them into the hands of Israel's seed. Well, this was the fighting that went on. Maybe this note's actually a little bit premature, or not premature. I should have done it sooner. This campaign was in the north, and the last one was in the south. Now we're going to do the cleanup. So Israel's seed pursued all these kings with their camps, and smote them until there was none left of them. And Joshua did to them as Yehovah had spoken to him. And Joshua returned at that time to Khazar, and smote it with a sword, and destroyed every soul in it, and burned it with fire. From Khazar Joshua passed to Shimron, and smote it, and utterly destroyed it. From there he passed to Akshaph, and he did to it as he had done to Shimron. From there he passed to Adullam, and he smote all the people in it. And he did to Adullam as he had done to Akshaph and Shimron. And he passed from them to all the cities of the kings which he had smitten. And he smote all the people that were left of them, and he utterly destroyed them. Only their booty, there it is, the booty, and the cattle, the livestock, sheep, goats, donkeys, ox, the Israelites took for themselves as a prey. But every human being they smote. They suffered not a soul to live. You know, boy, we have a real problem with this. In these last days, Israel is going to seem to the world so brutal. But they don't understand that they have the opportunity to come to us and submit themselves to us. They certainly have the opportunity right now to become Israel. But you know what? Remember, these people are being killed because of their wickedness. They do not want to learn Yehovah's ways. The others do. I mean, we talk about hamstringing horses. I'm sure my wife, she loves horses, is having a fit. What? Why'd they do it to the innocent animals? Probably so they can't be used against them again. So Joshua and all Israel's seed smote the whole land of Canaan, as Yehovah had commanded them, and smote all their kings, being 31 kings. And Israel's seed took their whole country, besides the kingdom of Sihon and Og, which were on the other side of the Jordan, from which Moses had smitten many cities. And Moses gave them to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and half the tribes of Manasseh. And Joshua smote all the kings that were on this side of the Jordan, to the west, and gave them for an inheritance to the nine tribes and a half tribe of Israel. And for 5 years did Joshua carry on the war with these kings. And he gave their cities to the Israelites. And the land became tranquil from battle throughout the cities of the Amorites and the Canaanites. Remember, the Amorites and the Canaanites, an Amorite is a Canaanite. It always strikes me as funny that they do that. At that time, it says skip to verse 12. We're going to talk about the children of Catim's seed. Remember, that was Rome. Let's go to 12. In those days, after Israel's seed had driven away all the Canaanites and the Amorites, Joshua was old and advanced in years. And Yehovah said to Joshua, "Thou art old and advanced in life, and a great part of the land remains to be possessed. Now therefore divide this land for an inheritance to the 9 tribes and the half tribe of Manasseh." And Joshua rose up and did as Yehovah had spoken to him. He divided the whole land to the tribes of Israel as an inheritance according to their divisions. But to the tribe of Levi he gave no inheritance. The offerings of Yehovah are their inheritance, as Yehovah had spoken to them by the hand of Moses. Yes, that's right. The offerings, the tithes, and the things that are going to come from his people, Israel's seed, are going to go to the Levites. And Joshua gave Mount Hebron to Caleb. Funny they say gave Mount Hebron, not Hebron. I thought he got Hebron. What is Mount Hebron? Is that where Hebron's at? Joshua gave Mount Hebron to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, ben Jephunneh, one portion above his brethren, as Yehovah had spoken through Moses. Therefore Hebron became the inheritance of Caleb and his seed unto this day. Joshua divided the land by lots to all Israel as an inheritance, as Yehovah commanded him. And Israel's seed gave cities to the Levites from their inheritance, the suburbs for their livestock and property, as Yehovah had commanded Moses. So did Israel's seed, and they divided the land by lot, whether great or small. And they went to inherit the land according to their boundaries. And Israel's seed gave to Joshua the son of Nun an inheritance amongst them. By the word of Yehovah did they give to him the city which he required, Timnah Serah, in Mount Ephraim. And he built the city and dwelt therein. Here's Timnah Serah. I found it this morning, just for you. Timnah Serah, right here. Here's Ai. Here's Gilgal, Jericho, Ai, Timnah Serah. And down here, we were just talking about Hebron. There's Hebron that Caleb got. Is there a mountain there? I don't know. Maybe. Certainly in the hills. These are the inheritances which Eleazar the priest and Joshua ben Nun and the heads of the fathers of the tribes portioned out to Israel's seed by lot in Shiloh before Yehovah at the door of the tabernacle, and they left off dividing the land. You know, I wonder if within the tribes there was some families who were larger than other families. Maybe when they talk about doing it by lot, and I forget how they said it, but they said something that intimated that, oh, here it is. And they divided the land by lot, whether great or small. Maybe not. Maybe they just divided the land. You know, you have portions that are going to the tribes, and they made all these portions out. This section is going to go to one tribe, this is going to go to another tribe, this is going to go to another tribe. But they did that by lot. But then once they have the land, which each one of these tribes are going to have, now they're going to divide it by the families. How did they divide it by the families? I'd like to know. These are the inheritances which Eleazar the priest and Joshua the son of Nun, the heads of the fathers of the tribes, portioned out to Israel's seed by lot in Shiloh before Yehovah at the door of the tabernacle. And they left off dividing the land. They did it in Shiloh. Was Shiloh the name of the city? No, it's Gilgal. Where's Shiloh? And why did they do it in Shiloh? Inquiring minds want to know. There's Shiloh up here. Interesting. Okay. By lot in Shiloh, before Yehovah at the door of the tabernacle, and they left off dividing the land. So they bring the tabernacle with them. And Yehovah gave the land to the Israelites, and they possessed it as Yehovah had spoken to them, and as Yehovah had sworn to their ancestors. Maybe the tabernacle had been moved from Gilgal to Shiloh. I know it did at one point. Maybe this is when it happened. And Yehovah gave the Israelites rest from their enemies around them, and no man stood against them, and Yehovah delivered all their enemies into their hands. And not one thing failed of the good which Yehovah had spoken to Israel's seed. You know what? Yehovah hasn't spoken any good to any Gentiles. I don't care if you believe in Yeshua or not. It has nothing to do with it. Yehovah is raising up a people for himself. His good words, which he speaks, are to Israel's seed. Those are the promises that he's making to his spiritually born men. Yea, Yehovah performed everything. Don't expect any more. Don't expect any less than what he promised. And Joshua called to Israel's seed, and he blessed them and commanded them to serve Yehovah. And he afterwards sent them away, and they went each man to his city, and each man to his inheritance. Thank you, Father. And Israel's seed served Yehovah all the days of Joshua. And Yehovah gave them rests all around them, and they dwelt securely in their cities. Well, this is what it's about. The land and the seed. The land and the seed. Here is the seed which Yehovah is raising up, creating, if you will, at Passover, the spiritual seed. And it's to them that he's going to give the land. He's going to do it again. Count on it. Now's the time to leave the kingdom of our birth, to become Yehovah's called out people. Is it an easy life? No, it's not an easy life. But you know what? It's a life that you'll never regret for the good things that he has for those who look to him with the hope that he has given us. Well, this is the end of our series. Thank you for joining me. You know, I really, especially those of you who are just coming in late, many will never even hear this. I probably should do another recording. But those who are coming in at the end of this series, do a search. Look for 2 is the second time that we've gone through this series. 2G is for Genesis. 01 is the first lesson in Genesis. We're going to cover chapter 1. 2G02 is going to cover chapter 2, but it's not going to go that way all along. 2G01. Search it, find it, and start listening to these lessons starting from Genesis. You know what? We've learned lies. Genesis, especially those first 3 chapters, they set a lot of things in order to give us understanding, for understanding Yehovah's word. We won't consider or be, we won't continue thinking children of Israel if we learn some of these principles. Well, thank you for joining me for these many days, years. We'll stay in touch. I'm going to still do some videos. I'm going to try to do some videos to keep the interest up on the YouTube channel. And I want to do some different things. So, hey, thank you for joining me. Follow Yehovah. Make yourself wholly his, men. And ladies, follow your man. Wicked or righteous, follow your man. Encourage him to do the right thing. But you know what? The sin's on him. You learn to serve your man. That's all Yehovah asks of a woman. Serve your man. Men, leave the kingdom of your birth. Make yourself holy Yehovah's and follow him alone. All right. Well, love you tons. Thank you for joining me. We'll talk again later. Bye now.